it's the same thing as abolishing the Fed, because there's nothing in the Fed. The Fed has swapped all of their treasury paper for all this worthless, toxic assets that we've been talking about that they are trying to, quote, mark to market and give a fictional value to. But if you actually do a Ron Paul-style audit and apply real value, you will find that the value is zero. So by auditing the Fed, it's the same thing as abolishing the Fed, because the Fed has nothing. Now, I'll tell you something that is very interesting, Alex Jones. The Fed, of course, and the Treasury are the purveyors of U.S. Treasury bonds. It is a well-known fact within the banking circles that for many years, the big banks on the street, Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, have sold Treasury bonds, that they had no authority to do so, that they have in fact counterfeited those bonds or sold short, naked short selling of Treasury bonds that do not actually exist. If you're going to audit the Fed, that means you're going to have to audit the New York Fed, where Geithner was before he joined the Treasury Department.
Yeah, that's the head of the snake for those that don't know.
And if you're going to do that, then you've got to also pursue this all the way to the fact, and, I don't want to, blow your head off or anything, but all the records for the SEC to account for all these naked short
Building 7?
That's right.
I'm afraid they were blown up. Oh.
That's where it all goes. That's where the SEC, all those records were in that depository. And, as I've always said since 9/12, that the Twin Towers were merely a cover for the true target that day were those SEC records that were held in Building 7. Now, something else that's interesting...
Well, let me stop you. I've noticed the elites pathologically love to do things that help them on win, insurance fraud, be able to invade countries, police state. But you're absolutely right. But what I'm saying is people will find out it's only a front for the private Federal Reserve owner banks and families and all the scams. Exactly. If you're able to ever audit them, and even trying to audit them and them fighting and covering up and acting suspicious, Ron Paul said on the show he knows his life is in danger doing this. And then meanwhile, our whining, pathetic patriot movement whines and bitches that he isn't doing enough. I mean, it's just mental illness. But sorry, Max, go ahead.
Well, it's like the old Woody Allen joke. He says, Doc, my brother thinks he's a chicken. What do you think we should do about it? And he said, well, take these drugs and he'll stop thinking he's a chicken. But he says, but Doc, we need the eggs. So the lies are critical to the illusionary thinking. Now, here's something else about the New York Fed. The New York Fed is also where Germany keeps all of its gold. And Germany, if you saw it, very interesting with Brian Williams, I guess his name is, he was interviewing Obama in the White House, and during the meeting, Larry Summers got very excited and came in and said, what about the German thing? There's the German problem. And people were asking, what's going on with Germany?
Yeah, Merkel is saying, we're tired of your crap. Go ahead.
Well, Germany is demanding that the U.S. sends them back their gold. They've got 3,000 tons of gold. They've got the second or third biggest gold bullion reserve in the world. It's held in New York, in the New York Fed. They want it shipped back, like France had their gold shipped back in the 70s. When Nixon closed the gold window, as part of the Nixon attempt to pay off the Vietnam War by printing up a lot of phony money. France
so it appears the Ponzi scheme is teetering on the end of a pin here.
That's what Germany is sensing, and they want their gold bullion back. And if that's so, then it's less of a reserve that you can count in your accounting model. So that's why I say, going forward, you're going to have more accounting fraud, more accounting tricks. If you look at this story from Bloomberg today, creators of financial products have been running ahead of the law for many years. Okay, and they're talking about that financial products are being relied on more and more to try to engineer America out of their problem. Now, you ask me where is politics going forward. I'll tell you what I think is going to happen, and we saw it in the last election. You know, in the last election, the Obama victory owes a large part to the presence of what were called prediction markets or event-driven markets. There was an Irish exchange called InTrade where people were buying and selling whether or not Obama would become president. Now, once you own a contract where you think someone's going to be a presidential winner, you're going to tend to vote for that person. So this is a blending we're going to see of the casino industry with the political establishment. And going forward, more and more people are going to be taking speculative bets vis-a-vis these online betting exchanges and prediction markets. And I know these pretty well because I invented as you pointed out at the top of the show, I invented the technology for virtual betting that went into the Hollywood Stock Exchange. And then Cantor Fitzgerald bought that company, and they moved it, in fact, to the top floor of the World Trade Towers just a few months before 9/11, which is how I know that there were brokers working in the towers buying puts on airlines based on the rumor of a plane exploding. So these guys were betting on their own demise because I was talking directly to them because they had just bought my company. But anyway, so these virtual bets and virtual trading platforms are going to be more of a factor in elections going forward. So the politicians, instead of trying to persuade you using commercials and TV and media, they're going to try to get you to buy stock in them, to make bets in them, so you have a vested interest in the outcome. And so it'll become much more like a casino gambling environment. And and people, as they lose their job and as wages continue to erode, there's going to be more people who are going to try to make their living in gambling. And gambling is going to become a lot more sophisticated. You're going to see online gambling become legalized in America because it's going to be a source of huge revenue. And many people are going to become more professional gamblers to replace their manufacturing.
All right, let me stop you, Max. So where you're going with this is, and I agree, they're admitting this is where they're going. All the fiat gambling, made up crap, toxic derivatives, certified paper, all of these scams that got us into this, they're saying the answer is diving completely into it and letting the false casino economy literally take over all of society to where it's just gambling world with nothing but prostitutes and corrupt police and fat cats gambling everywhere and bureaucrats ruling over the farms and ranches with those people literally as slaves producing food for them. And then soon they'll become delusional and make people eat scraps of derivative paper that symbolize eggs. I mean, we're just entering into a vortex of mass delusion.
Well, virtual property is already a huge business on sites like Second Life and other sites where people are buying and selling virtual trinkets, and it's a I think it's approaching $1 billion industry now of virtual economics on cyber.
Yeah, the new Xbox. Yeah, the false, phony economy is eating the real universe. And the new Xbox, you biometrically scan yourself in, and these kids are like, I'm an admiral that rules 75 galaxies in this planet, but the guy can't get a woman. Look, you freaks, it's not the real world. I'm sorry, go ahead, Keiser.
Forced work slave camps. It'll be forced gaming slave camps.
Exactly. Oh, you must produce more.
The game. So the virtual economy. So yes, I think that's correct. Instead of trying to pull back from all the fraud and accounting and all of the speculation, there's going to be a massive push to make it even more retail, more established, and to break it down into more of a micropayment situation.
To pump it into the new bubble.
The new bubble is going to be driven by the micropayment schemes. Anybody with
the micro loans, getting everybody into loan sharking bubbles, and then selling the loan shark derivatives.
Well, we're seeing it already in the commodity markets. The commodity markets, they're packaging right now collateralized commodity obligations because the collateralized debt obligations, of course, that market is dried up.
And they're also betting. I mean, you know this, Max. They're saying the holy grail that will save us will be the carbon credits that shuts down real industry, but then you pay Al Gore your carbon indulgence, like you're buying it from St. Peter's Basilica to get your mother out of hell.
Well, I've written a lot about carbon credits, and the problem is that the governments are not strict in their allocation of credits, and so that market is becoming as corrupt as any other market. You know, markets, there's nothing wrong with markets per se if people follow the rules. But since the people who make money in markets buy politicians and then they change the rules, it becomes, as you have a story on your site today called neo-medievalism or neo-feudalism. And it's basically shows that as profits that are made in capitalism are used to buy politicians, and these politicians are then basically abdicating their role as public servants and just changing the rules to make it easier to make more speculative profits. You go back to this medieval period of gated cities and walled cities where people are serving up the gambling trinkets through the Internet, and everyone else is kind of living in a no-man land, virtual wasteland. And that you see that kind of happening right now, and you see it happening with these huge gaming establishments. And I think the big story in the next year, as the economy continues to shrink,